Shifting focus now to the other battlefield. In fact, a new kind of war unleashed by Donald Trump, what's being called Operation Economic Outcast against Iran. Basically seeking total isolation of the Iranian regime. It sounds grand, but can it succeed is the big question. Also, what exactly is this operation about? Let's just lay out the context for you first. According to America, this is an unprecedented campaign to sever every remaining economic lifeline sustaining Iran. So the aim basically is to squeeze Iran economically by exerting financial pressure and mounting that economic offensive. So does this mean failure of the US military operation is what many are asking. Has that led to this switch in strategy? We've been telling you about what's been happening behind the scenes so far. Also, what really is the end game here right now? Is the strategy limited to exerting economic pressure? What's being said? Well, not really. Pete Hegseth has said that the Trump administration was not ruling out using military force against Iran, even as Washington unveiled what it called the economic D-Day against Iran. On the question of whether America is holding back from taking action against Chinese banks for doing business with Iran, the US Treasury Secretary very crucially said that no one is above the reach of the United States sanctions. But the thing is, let's just join the dots for you. For this unprecedented operation, Trump needs China. So what exactly is China saying right now? Beijing has warned that America will be facing consequences. Basically, it has warned the US that it would retaliate against any significant expansion of the Trump administration's new secondary sanctions relating to Iran that hit Chinese companies. Also, the question is, can America actually isolate Iran? It's really not that simple. Trump is threatening not just Iranian companies, you see, but foreign banks, businesses, airports, government entities, ship registries, and financial networks that basically provide Iran with what he calls a lifeline. And the targets include oil smuggling, cash transfers, exchange houses, front companies as well. Also, the thing is, Iran is far too familiar with sanctions. It has lived with them for decades. Years of the US sanctions have already forced Iran to build an alternative trading system, one that relies heavily on China, neighboring countries, intermediaries, and so-called shadow fleets. So that basically brings us to China, which is pretty much the most important part of the puzzle here. You see, Trump cannot completely isolate Iran unless he also can shut down the channels connecting Iran to its biggest buyers, and that could mean confronting China. So will Trump be willing to take that route? Any serious increase of the US sanctions on China specifically would risk exploding that relationship with China only a month before Trump and Xi are scheduled to meet in Washington. Iran for now has responded with defiance, saying the latest US measures were an admission of military defeat, and it warned countries against aiding Washington. In fact, an IRGC spokesperson also said America resorting to economic warfare against Iran is again itself proof of defeat on the battlefield, according to the Iranian state media. The Iranian economy minister also claimed Iran had a 2-year plan to counter Washington's new sanctions. But does it really? As of now, the state of the Iranian economy, what's it looking like? It is facing an extremely difficult combination of war, sanctions, disrupted energy exports, currency pressure, to say the least. The IMF currently projecting Iran's economy will contract 5.4% in 2026. So consumer prices are projected to rise by almost 69% this year. Iran's non-oil economy, however, gives Tehran additional channels at the same time. And Iran's trade, of course, goes well beyond China. But as of now, Iran's currency is crashing. The country's main form of currency, the rial, fell to 2.02 million per dollar on Monday, as per the Associated Press, largely because of the economic toll of the war. The rial was worth 1.65 million per dollar just before the war, which means it now takes 22% more rials to buy $1. And the devalued currency, high inflation are making it harder for Iranians to afford basic needs and adding to their hardship. Also, at the same time, Gulf countries are primarily trying to protect their own economies and security. They are not necessarily signing up to every US objective. And that's where Trump's economic offensive becomes a domestic political hurdle as well. The national average price of regular gasoline, for example, is over $4 a gallon. That's more than 25% above a year earlier. So Trump's economic war creates that paradox in a way. The harder US squeezes Iran or tries to, the longer the Hormuz blockade continues, the greater the risk of an energy-driven inflation problem at home. So it could circle back. Also, can Trump actually win this war if the objective is to make Iran poorer and reduce its ability to finance its military? The answer could be potentially yes. But if the objective is complete economic isolation, as America claims, and forcing Tehran to surrender, that's a huge challenge. If Washington goes after Chinese companies, for example, or Turkish businesses, the Iran campaign could become a much larger confrontation over who controls global trade and finance. So can Trump force Iran to pay the economic price without forcing American consumers to actually pay a part of it as well? Because with oil above $90 a barrel, gasoline around $4 nationally, the economic war is no longer being fought only in Tehran. Some of the costs are already being paid by the Americans. This is no longer just about Iran and the US. It's also a question about who will blink first, China or the US, as both China and Iran are vowing retaliation.